We don't need to fight. We stand face to face. And you present your case.
KBLA Talk 1580.
You keep telling me that you love me.
Yes, you do. Okay, you're going to have to let that ride a little bit. Rest in peace to the great. The great Tina Turner. Reclaiming rock and roll queen. Reclaim rock and roll queen. Yes, rest in peace to Tina Turner. Now, I don't claim to be an expert on Tina Turner, and I want to hear your thoughts on her. We've got some folks already ready to talk about that and other things, and I encourage you to join us. But I have to take a moment here to talk to someone who actually is an expert. He's a vocalist, a pianist, a recording artist, a composer, and an educator. Performances spanning 2 decades, been on TEDx, NPR, music festivals, museums, and jazz clubs all over the country. Shayne Frederick, good morning.
Good morning, my dear sister. How are you?
I'm blessed. How are you?
Good. I'm feeling you on this Tina thing. You know, I'm still all the way in my bag. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, look, she was 83. It was a life well lived, but it's still a big loss, right? And I feel like,
oh, yeah.
You know, I, on the one hand, I'm loving seeing the mass media, the mainstream media paying tribute to this black woman and trying to dig in the crates to figure out what they can say about her because she is that superstar, you know, that cannot be compartmentalized to the African American community. But on the other hand, I feel like there's a lot of emphasis on Tina Turner as a victim as opposed to a victor. And a spiritual traveler who found her light and stayed in it, as a woman who reclaimed rock and roll. Like, this is just me. I don't know. I don't claim to be an expert, but those are the things that I look up to about Tina Turner.
I agree. It is a complete story, and a lot of times, you know, media wants to create a specific narrative and not look at the full arc. And Tina did live a fulfilled life. There was a moment in time that everyone kind of wants to freeze her at and, you know, give her the wounded bird, you know, the tragic and the trauma. But I think the most important part was that she overcame that and she utilized it as a catalyst to do the larger part of her work, actually. I mean, you know, that there was a period of time that was about, you know, she was with Ike. That was a minute. But the most that we know of Tina is subsequent to that.
Right.
So it's like, okay.
The part where she's touring the world, filling up stadiums. Right. Yeah. Wow. I think that's important. Yeah. So where do you place her in the sort of pantheon of of superstars in a musical sense?
I mean, obviously, you know, she stands alone. I do think it's interesting that if you closed your eyes and you only paid attention to what's current, you really wouldn't know the impact that black people had in rock and roll. If you looked at the tree of genres where blues and rock and roll kind of diverged just a little bit, Tina Turner was like right at the fulcrum of that, you know. And if you listen to her, you know, in her style, you can see the Southern, the country, the gospel influence, the blues influence in what rock and roll originated as. And you can see how she would be like a first cousin to Little Richard, right, who also was on that kind of the totem pole of rock and roll. And everyone else is influenced by these people. But again, they kind of erase them as a presence, but look at them as a figure. It's so interesting to think about.
Okay, I'm processing what you just said. They erase them as a presence, but look at them as a figure. So it's almost like being teased out as an individual anomaly as opposed to being part of a continuum of black creativity. Is that kind of it? Or
Yeah, that's exactly. I mean, you know, and I'm still struggling for the words because the loss is so monumental.
Yeah.
And I mean, she obviously has always been beyond. She's been a phenomenon, been beyond words. but to think about, it's like the regular existential crisis of blackness in culture. Like the way we invent things and then get discarded out of those things.
Yeah.
And we're kind of part of the context of it, but they're not really clear, and they're not going to say it overtly. And they'll give you an award, they'll give you a thing, and then kind of minimize your influence, or really, I guess, kind of decontextualize. It's really interesting. I don't know. Help me get it out.
Well, what you're saying right now is reminding me of something I saw on CNN yesterday, where a unmelanated reporter was interviewing a black woman about Tina Turner, and the African-American woman said, Tina Turner taught Mick Jagger how to dance, and the lady laughed.
Right.
And then the reporter said, no, really, she taught Mick Jagger how to dance, and she broke down how Tina Turner was opening for the Rolling Stones, and because Mick Jagger actually basically was studying her and stealing her moves through the whole tour. But even that was an individual thing, as if it was a dance lesson, as opposed to the typical, borrowing, stealing of our culture, right? So it was a one rock star giving another rock star dance lessons, as opposed to, I don't know if you want to call it cultural appropriation. Maybe that's a bridge too far. I mean, certainly the Rolling Stones have their own, power and style and all that, but that conversation to me was an example of what you're saying. They individuated it rather than putting in the context of Little Richard and all the others that were innovators in rock and roll.
Absolutely. I mean, let's call it influence. Let's say that, right?
All right.
That's a beautiful way. You know what I mean? We could talk about the influence of blackness on culture, largely, but specifically in this instance. Even speaking of Little Richard again, he said about Tina but she's the one that dances, though. There were other female singers, but she was the dancing one. And her influence was so wide that she was your favorite's favorite. And you wouldn't know that because you're looking at your favorite, but your favorite had a favorite. And that favorite learned from people like Tina. And so when the influence is so wide and so pervasive, sometimes you don't get to the specifics of how that rolls down. But that's the case. Her influence was so wide that she had everyone out here doing the pony on the stage. She had the trot, she had her steps, right? Mm-hmm. And people will watch you, and steal you, and they say imitation is the most, the sincerest form of flattery. I prefer payment, but I'll take your invitation.
Yeah. At least Mick Jagger, actually gave the woman some work instead of just stealing and running, which is often the case. But still,
yeah.
I think what you said about she's the one that dances. I mean, because it's like, I was telling Miles I was obsessed with James Brown when I was a kid. I was a weird kid, but because it's the total package. It's the powerful voice. It's that incredible incandescent stage presence. It's the light inside and the music, right? So it's all of that. And it's so rare that all of those come together in one individual without having to be manufactured or smoke and mirrored up. So I think that's part of what that is an expression of. It's not to say, oh, well, she's just sexy. She just has great legs, or she just dances. It's just that she seemed to have all of those things.
Yeah. I mean, it was really a part of her being the invention of the thing. She's so intrinsically woven into the fabric of that thing that it sets the mark.
I mean, it's amazing to me that someone can, Nutbush, City Limits, somebody can be so roots country, soul, whatever, and at the same time be the ultimate crossover artist, right? But still kind of keep your style. How is that even possible?
Well, I mean, and the point is is it a crossover, though? Because if we go back and we look at the roots of it, right, you know what I mean? If we let's look at rock, blues, and country. And if you look at blues and country, you can see how they originated. And again, we could talk about genres and how we displace black people out of country. And then you have one country act currently that's black, and it's oh wow, that's an anomaly. And it's well, you don't know the context of country music.
Yeah.
And you don't know, from what it came and how it has a similar, harmonic structure to blues, like the, original country blues. So then she just kind of really is a female. She really is the epitome of that. She is the manifestation of that. She is one of the avatars of where, like, this is the roots of this thing.
Right. She is the ancestors, right? But in terms of sales, in terms of filling up stadiums, it crossed over.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, crossover is pop, what we call the popular version of a thing.
Right.
And you got to hail somebody. You have to honor someone and say, all right, this is the originator. These are the people,
V. Shayne Frederick is joining us, and we are still taking your phone calls. We're paying tribute to the great Tina Turner, who made her transition this week at the age of 83. It's KBLA Talk 1580.
More of First Things First with Dominique DePrima when we come forward.
Calling all small business owners, entrepreneurs, and startups. Vermont Slauson Economic Development Corporation is your one-stop shop for the resources and tools you need to take your business to the next level. VSEDC is a community-based nonprofit and CDFI organization recognized for decades of technical and entrepreneurial assistance to South LA small businesses, startups, and entrepreneurs for 40 years. VSEDC provides training workshops and your very own business coach, and these services are all free. That's right, these services are free. Business coaches are standing by at their South LA Business Source Center or their Watts Business Source Center. Visit their website at vsedc.org or call them now at 323-752-2335. That's Vermont Slauson Economic Development Corporation at 323-753-2335.
Discover credit cards automatically double all the cash back you earn at the end of your first year, which means... Wait, hold up. Question for the audio engineer.
Go ahead.
Did I read that right? Discover automatically doubles all your cash back?
Yeah, that's what the script says.
So if I get a Discover card right now, I can earn twice the cash back.
Apparently. Wait! Unlimited first-year cash back match, only from Discover. See terms and learn more at discover.com/match.
Follow the leader.
KBLA Talk 1580.
Follow the leader.
If you're not following KBLA Talk 1580 on all of our socials, then you're missing out. Download our app and find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and on the web at KBLA 1580.
That's right.
Again, you can find all of our socials at KBLA 1580.
We've got a lot to talk about.
By the way, if you miss any of our weekday shows in real time, you can always catch up by checking out the podcast of your favorite shows at your leisure. At KBLA Talk 1580, we've got your black.
Follow the leader. Oh my God. Follow the leader. Follow the leader. Follow the leader. Follow the leader. Follow the leader.
Are your investments going nowhere? Here's a tip that always pays big dividends. Invest in yourself, your talent, your smarts, your skills. Maybe it's time to make that investment and start a career in IT or upskill to boost your current career. At My Computer Career, you can bank on us. We'll help you get the right skills and the right certifications to start or advance your IT career. IT keeps growing, so go with the growth. At My Computer Career, the right training, the right timing, the right career. Invest in you at mycomputercareer.edu. Start now.
The conversation continues right now with Dominique DePrima on First Things First.
And joining us right now, helping to pay tribute and expand our knowledge about the great Tina Turner, an artist himself, V. Shayne Frederick. He's an artist. He's a pianist, a vocalist, a composer, but also an educator. I suggest you go on YouTube, V. Shayne Frederick, and listen to some of his music. He's constantly touring, and he's a professor at the University of the Arts, and also a preschool music teacher. So he can teach both ends of the spectrum. So we're talking about Tina Turner, and you said you have to honor somebody. And I really feel like it's important for me to honor her maybe a little bit differently than what I've been hearing. So, talk to me like I am your kindergarten, your preschool class. What will you tell me about Tina Turner?
Oh, my gosh. I mean, where does one start? I guess they say in order to explain something, if you explain it well, to know it well. You have to be able to explain it in simplest forms. I would say kind of a blues / rock vocalist, coming out of Tennessee. Tina, he gave her the name Tina because she was Little Ann. And powerful voice, and you talk about her stage presence and performance. I think to see her on stage shows why she sounds the way she does, because she is like a phenomenon. Energetically, you can see like the energy fighting its way out of her body, but her core was solid. So in order to produce a vocal the way she produced a vocal, it was like the sound was bigger than her body. So as much as her legs were going and the hair and all the head bobbling and the hair flying everywhere, her core was always solid because she gave a nice, powerful, metallic vocal. It was from the bottom of her soul. You believe every note she ever sang because she meant every note she sang. And I think there's so many lessons just watching her perform. Even if you don't want to do that work, just understanding how to use your body. The whole body was her microphone. It was just interesting to see. She was a performer, and she gave you the energy and the dazzle and all of that. But that vocal performance was supported by a sturdy, a really strengthened body. Her core was so strengthened.
Yeah, why do you suppose she got the title Queen of Rock and Roll?
Well, I think about like Sister Rosetta Tharpe, who was in there, but a whole different thing, different kind of act. She was the more gospel side of it. And they talk about her and then they talk about, there are other figures who were influential, but I think Tina was the big total package. And then when we think about where rock is now with pyrotechnics and stuff exploding on stage and running across the stage and the antics, Tina represented a physicality of rock and roll.
Yeah.
It wasn't just the sound. She had the sound. She had the glamour. She had the lights. She literally represents every facet of what we consider classic rock and roll. And it wasn't metal because it was like pleasant sounding. It wasn't just like, screaming death metal kind of stuff. It was pleasant. It was energetic. It was aggressive and masculine. And she even talked about how she was one character on the stage, but in real life, she's a lady, and she's really like 15 years old in her mind. That's what she's.
Yeah.
She had to be this thing. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Well, I always joke around because I tell people I'm shy, and they're like, "No, you're not. You talk all day." But it reminds me, there's so many people that perform are like that. The Michael Jacksons of the world, they talk like this, and then they get on stage and they're, grabbing their stuff and spinning around and screaming, and so I think it's like Beyonce says, it's like an alter ego almost.
Right. And she grabbed her stuff too, in a way. You know what I mean? She was grabbing her proverbial stuff. Okay, she was doing the same cross grab that Michael Jackson was doing, just in her own way. She was fully possessed. I think the stage allowed her to be fully possessed in a way in her life, even before she was in her real life. Later.
I also think maybe in the conversation about when we talk about Ike and Tina Turner, or the Ike and Tina Turner review, I'm not sure the exact name of it, but we always think about the movie and the struggles of their relationship, the abuse, but Ike Turner was actually a really gifted musician, right? And I think Ike and Tina Turner, with what they did before she became the international superstar, also had hits and also contributed significantly to music.
Absolutely. I mean, and she wanted to keep her name and continue that legacy, which is why she still was Tina Turner after that. I mean, he gave her the name Tina and gave her the name Turner, right?
Right.
Through marriage, which she was kind of forced into the marriage. She didn't really want to get married, that dude. But musically, yes. Musically, he was brilliant and talented. I think part of his anger was that he needed her to go to the levels that they were going to. And he resented the fact that her presence was so powerful that it actually overshadowed what his deep, significant musical contribution was. And that was part of the fury and the anger and the rage, is that she was uncontrollable and he was trying to control her and it. And it was bigger than him.
He was trying to catch the wind. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, but I mean, when we think about this, troubled musicians, it's not new. And, you whether it's, Jerry Lee Lewis or Ike Turner or R. Kelly, the question of whether you keep the music and throw away the person or throw away the music and the person, it is a bit of a dilemma, because I feel like if we decided to throw away every artist in music, in theater or film, in the fine arts, who had problematic things going on in their lives, we would have very little left to listen to or look at. So I feel like in some kind of historical sense, it's important to acknowledge the issues that the person had, and then you make your own choice about whether you personally want to listen to it. But I don't think you can remove people from the canon of the arts because of their personal problems.
Yeah, I think, and this is where we get to like idolizing and idolatry and kind of deifying things and people versus getting the lesson, what they say, chew the meat, spit out the bone. Mm. And so, you take, because everyone, if we look at any iconic person, artist in the history of the world who created something that defined a genre or a thing, we could dig deep enough and find an issue. And do we literally throw everything away, including ourselves? Are we all completely unassailable? Are we all completely unassailable such that anything we do in life has no value once it's determined that we too are human? And I'm not saying I vouch for anybody. I don't ride anyone's cape, but get the lesson, understand the significance and the value out of the majesty of what Ike Turner produced musically, and also realize that at certain moments in his life, he was a terrible human being. Also, at certain moments, he was a great person.
Right. I mean, Tina Turner herself said
complexity.
It. Yeah.
Right.
It's never that simple, is it?
Right.
Yeah, we got a minute and a half here before we lose you at the bottom of the hour. V. Shayne Frederick, I want to remind us how to find your music, and just pass you the mic to say whatever you want to say this morning.
Thank you. I'm grateful to be in community with you and discussing our dear beloved Anime Bullock, a.k.a. Tina Turner. Rest in peace, baby. My music, and I'm more of a jazz cat. I'm on Spotify and Tidal and Apple Music and Bandcamp. V.Shayne with a Y, Shayne, Frederick. I'm on all the stuff. Find me, stream me, download, and you may even see me on a jazz club stage near you, maybe even a jazz fest stage near you. I'm based in the East Coast, but I travel. I'll be in the Midwest for the Frederick Douglass in July with my good sister, Ruth Naomi Floyd. I'll be reading Frederick again, so we're very excited about that.
The voice of Frederick Douglass, yeah. That's amazing. Yeah. And also you'll be joining us you'll be giving us a little bit of a music instruction for Black Music Month on First Things First, and I'm grateful to you for agreeing to do that.
Oh, it's going to be fun. You already know we have fun, so let's do it.
Absolutely. V. Shayne Frederick on Spotify or wherever you get your music. V. Shayne and then Frederick. And I thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you, and peace to everyone.
Peace indeed. We are celebrating the life and the legacy of Tina Turner. We are remembering the life, the death, and the activism created by the death of George Floyd and those that came before. And we're inviting you into the conversation always on KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA Talk 1580 is an intervention. When we come forward, includes you. KBLA Talk 1580, turning pain into power.
I'm Ray Harris, and here's the latest from the Black Information Network. Oscar-winning actress Angela Bassett is paying tribute to the late Tina Turner. Trey Thomas has the details on this story.
You're simply the best.
Bassett, who portrayed Turner in the 1993 movie What's Love Got to Do with It, praised Turner's courage, willpower, and commitment. In a statement, she said Tina Turner showed others who lived in fear what a beautiful future filled with love, compassion, and freedom should look like. The music icon died at the age of 83 after a long illness.
Four-time NBA champion Steph Curry is teaming up with a Kentucky-based distillery to launch his own brand of alcohol. It's called Gentleman
Gentleman's Cut Kentucky Straight Bourbon Whiskey. It will be released later this month. And that's the latest. I'm Ray Harris on the Black Information Network and BINnews.com.
Finding a great hire can be a challenge. That's why there's Indeed. Their powerful hiring platform makes it easy to attract, interview, and hire candidates. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get $75 toward your first sponsored job. Terms and conditions apply.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Rams franchise has a special connection to the iconic Tina Turner. Turner was part of the pregame entertainment before Super Bowl 34 in Atlanta in 2000. The Rams, who were in St. Louis at the time, played the Tennessee Titans for the NFL championship. Turner did a 4-minute medley that included her legendary hit Proud Mary. Since Turner was a Tennessee native, born in Brownsville, Tennessee, the NFL reached out to Turner and she agreed to do the pregame show. Tina Turner, simply the best. The Clippers are looking for a new general manager. GM Michael Winger is leaving the club to become director of basketball operations for the Washington Wizards. The Miami Heat have another chance to win the Eastern Conference title tonight. The Heat are up 3-1 on Boston. Game 5 in Boston at 5:30 on TNT. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
Ladies and gentlemen, the President of the United States of America.
The story of Emmett Till and his mother is a story of a family's promise and loss and a nation's reckoning with hate, violence, and abuse of power. It's a story that was seared into our memory and our conscience, the nation's conscience, when Mrs. Till insisted that an open casket for her murdered and maimed 14-year-old son. She said, "Let the people see what I've seen." The reason the world saw what she saw was because of another hero in this story, the black press. Jet Magazine, the Chicago Defender, and other black radio and newspapers were unflinching and brave in making sure America saw what she saw. Ida B. Wells once said, and I quote, "The way to right wrongs is to turn the light of truth upon the wrongs."
Turning the light of truth upon the wrongs. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580, and we don't black down. This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio. That's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
Maisha Cairo here with a quick recap from my time at JP Morgan Chase's Advancing Black Wealth Tour. There were speakers Ian Dunlap, Damon John, Lynn Richardson, MC Light, Don Kennedy, to name a few. Take a listen to what Justin Grant, Community Development Lead at Chase's Advancing Black Pathway, let's see what he had to say.
So I'm Justin Grant. I lead community development and national partnerships for JP Morgan Chase's Advancing Black Pathway strategy. And so we're focused on strengthening the economic foundation of black communities, and we're making targeted investments in programs like the Advancing Black Wealth Tour to help us get our tools and resources out to the community to drive sustained impact over time.
So when it comes to black and brown people, it sounds like Chase is making it their personal responsibility not only to facilitate these events, but to educate and provide resources. So, Mr. Grant, I have to ask, what does wealth building look like for the individual?
It's home ownership. It's having that freedom to be able to start your own business and create jobs in your community. And it's having that long-term plan towards retirement, having that vision for what you want your life to be, and you have the resources to actually live it.
I'm Maisha Cairo. Thanks for sticking around. That was my recap from Chase's Advancing Black Wealth Tour. First stop was here in LA, and they're taking it national.
Did you know that all City of LA renters have rights? Check out these 3 facts. Residential tenants can't be evicted without reason or just cause. Eviction protection still exists for unpaid COVID-19 rental debt due before March 31st, 2023. And you have 5 days to respond to an eviction notice. 5 days. Many Angelenos may be at risk of losing their home, and that's why we want you to know your rights. Learn more at housing.lacity.org. Be informed, be protected, be at home.
At KBLA Talk 1580, we do more than just talk.
You got a big mouth. Hello, Joe, you're up. Welcome.
We're unapologetically progressive, and we don't black down.
And you're welcome in 800-920-1580, 800-920-1580. The governor of the state of Florida, Mr. Ron DeSantis, made his big announcement on yesterday. It was a Twitter fail. It was definitely a fail. They had glitches. They had bad audio, crashing servers. When Elon Musk, who has been widely hailed as a tech genius, gets together with Ron DeSantis, and they both consider themselves to be saviors, and it goes south, it's pretty bad. Let me tell you something. It was not a good look. First of all, you're doing audio only, then you can't even... It wasn't a good look for Twitter or for DeSantis, but we shall see. I thought it was great that Biden decided to clown him. Kevin McCarthy claims they're making some progress on the U.S. debt ceiling. We supposedly have till June 1st until everything goes south, although there has been speculation that we might have another week, that we might be able to continue to pay our bills, we being the United States, for another week before all hell breaks loose. And that means not paying veterans. It means problems with people getting their benefits. It means problems with globally. It's likely going to be very, very bad if, in fact, that does turn out to be what we're in for. Memorial Day weekend. I hope you have a beautiful weekend. I hope you get some time off and keep listening to KBLA, because we'll be with you all weekend and all week long as always. And new polling shows that most Californians would like Senator Feinstein to step down. I don't know. I don't think it's age. We just reelected her. I'm not in her district, but she was just reelected a couple of years ago. I think it is her illness, the pictures in the wheelchair and whatnot. But at this point, a majority would like to see her step down and question her fitness to do the job. All right, let's go to the phones. I'm going to JW calling us from LA. Good morning.
Hey, good morning. How are you?
I'm blessed. How are you?
I'm doing well. Before I have a dialogue with you, I would hope that maybe someone will have that number for Community Coalition that the mayor started.
It's 323.
Give me offline.
It's 323.
I get
75. Okay, well, someone else listening might want it. 323-750-9087. I don't have that many numbers memorized, but I have that one because I was on their board for many, many years when it was led by Karen Bass, and then when she passed the baton to Marquise Harris Dawson, I sat on the board of directors. The number again, 323-750-9087. You can also find them online at Coco South LA on Instagram and Twitter, cocosouthla.org, COCO, southla.org. Go ahead, JW.
Okay, yeah, great. Unfortunately, I couldn't get anything that was right. But anyway, one of my comments was in reference to the person, your guest you had on earlier, the educator. I had called him at the end of the subject matter when he mentioned Cornell West. But he also made reference to the youth, and I believe you guys were referring to, he had made a comment about the most, how did he phrase it? I believe he said, in reference to the guns and shooting and violence, I think he said it was the most critical, or whatever the term both guys are using. Yeah, but one of my comments was, I agree with everything that you both said, but I really believe, other than social media, just the internet in general, and then these games like Grand Theft Auto and the military game where they're doing the shooting and killing. I believe that radicalizes the youth and brainwashes them and create a problem of crime.
You're talking about video games. You know, it's funny because this comes up every time there's school shootings, every time there's violence among youth. And the data that I've seen shows that young people that spend too much time on social media or too much time on video games, if anything, they tend to get depressed. I think that it's been a convenient scapegoat for Republicans to just say, well, if only we would control rap music and video games, then all of this violence would go away. But the problem with that theory, JW, is that when you go to wealthy communities or upper middle class communities where children have places to play, plenty of food, houses to go home to, and support the kinds of things we hope that children have, enrichment programs and such, those same video games and rap songs do not have that impact. You know, you can go to a wealthy county and they'll be listening to the most violent hip hop song ever, but it doesn't make them violent because they don't have the conditions in their life that spawn that kind of activity, and they don't have the deprivation and lack of resources that makes people desperate enough to do stuff.
Right, because I was going to make a reference to Teen Post Incorporated, which is funded by CETA. And I used to be assistant director of counseling at the youth center, and he had made a reference to that as well when he mentioned Boys and Girls Clubs. And that's one of the reasons why I call him, because there are various different factors that cause our crime. First of all, poverty breeds crime, for one thing. And then, like you said, the different conditions and the atmosphere and the climate that has been created by our society and certain powers that control that narrative and create that type of mindset in various different communities in reference to redlining and exclusion and the lack of resources.
Yeah, I mean, I think it does start with poverty, and because with poverty comes the over-incarceration of Black people, right, and Latino people, where those children are more likely to grow up with a parent unavailable because they're behind bars, and all of the repercussions, the domino effect that comes from that. And yet you want to say, oh, it's a video game. But if a child with enough food, enough parental guidance, a place to live, safety, and lack of trauma in their life plays the same video game, it doesn't have the same result. So I think while there are contributing factors to the violence we see in entertainment, to blame it on that alone is really irresponsible. It's letting lawmakers and the community off the hook for providing the resources that we need to be providing to low-income communities. Continuing the conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
She's reclaiming her time on KBLA Talk 1580. More First Things First with Dominique DePrima when we come forward.
Reparations Task Force concludes its 15th meeting and votes on its final report, suggesting that upward of $800 billion is owed to Black Californians who are descendants of slaves. Maisha Cairo here with your K-Black Minute News, brought to you by CaliforniaBlackMedia.org. The 9-member task force finalized its recommendations for compensating Black Californians for state laws, policies, and practices that have disproportionately and negatively affected African Americans. The final report, which will be available to the public, is expected to be about 1,000 pages long. Among the recommendations made, the state of California should issue a formal apology for the perpetration of gross human rights violations and the genocide of Africans who were enslaved and their descendants. The implied admission of guilt should mitigate the harm historically inflicted on the Black community, according to members of the task force. U.S. Representative Barbara Lee says reparations are not a luxury for our people, but a human right long overdue for millions of Americans.
Hi, I'm Dominique DePrima. At the Amundsen Theater, now through June 25th, Norm Lewis stars in A Soldier's Play, directed by Kenny Leone. Charles Fuller's Pulitzer Prize-winning drama and Tony Award-winning play, A Soldier's Play, is now on stage. In 1944, on a Louisiana Army base, a Black sergeant is murdered, triggering a gripping barrage of questions about sacrifice, service, and identity in America. I'm looking forward to seeing the show myself. Get your tickets at amundsentheater.org. That's amundsentheater.org. Have you faced discrimination in Los Angeles? The City of LA Civil Rights Department can help. They investigate private sector discrimination in LA City in commerce, education, employment, and housing. If you're facing discrimination, submit a complaint online for free at laisforeveryone.com. That's laisforeveryone.com or call 213-978-1845.
KBLA Talk 1580 is in the lab right now, prepping some new shows coming your way soon. More empowerment, more inspiration, more entertainment.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Jazz Urbane Hour. I'm your host, Bill Banfield. We are a curated musical show that highlights contemporary cultural issues and artistry, showcasing music as a relevant and necessary arm of contemporary cultural identity.
You must learn. Welcome. I am your host, Dr. Tyrone Howard on KBLA Talk 1580, and you're listening to You Must Learn, where we talk about education as a tool for transformation. Education in our homes, in our schools, and in our communities. Education for transformation is the tagline, and we are here to talk about why we must learn.
KBLA Talk 1580 is for discerning listeners just like you. So tell all your friends you've discovered the talk station curating smart content for smart people. We're KBLA Talk 1580, and we've got you black. Your ancestors' favorite radio station, and your favorite morning show host. Let's get back to Dominique DePrima right now.
Discerning listeners just like you can call me right now at 800-920-1580. I'm Dominique DePrima. Hope you know that. We are celebrating the life and the legacy of Tina Turner, but we are also paying tribute and remembering George Floyd Jr., his family, their sacrifice, and our determination, many of us, I'll put myself in that category, to continue to seek justice. Just because you don't see us pounding the pavement does not mean we are not moving towards justice. Let's go to Willie calling from Palmdale. Good morning, Willie.
Good morning, Dominique.
What's on your mind?
I was just saying, I remember Tina Turner played in the movie Mad Max Beneath the Thunderdome.
Yeah.
With Mel Gibson. I like what she said, take care, Raggedy Man. I think that's what she said.
Well, you know what? I did see that, but I don't remember. But I just, to me, it was all about the way she said everything. The way, it was always attitude, but attitude with love, kind of.
Yeah. I remember when I was younger, when I didn't know who she was, but my cousin was a musician, Frank Turner, no relation to Ike. But I remember seeing them walking at the Capitol Records.
Seeing Tina Turner walking?
Uh-huh.
Really?
I didn't know who she was.
That's wild.
My cousins, they knew who she was. But I didn't know. But I was just
Were they excited?
Were they? No, I didn't.
I mean, look, you think about. Go ahead.
I didn't really pay attention. I was just hearing my cousin say they go Ike and Tina Turner and because my cousin.
Oh, so Ike was with her. So this is a really long time ago. You were like a kid.
Yeah, I was like 11 or 12.
Okay. Yeah, but, I mean, if you think about it, Tina Turner, because you started with Thunderdome, she had that mohawk, she had this futuristic outfit, and it was really, now we think, okay, a black woman with, a mohawk and a futuristic outfit, you think Rihanna, you think Janelle Monáe, you don't really think much of it, but back then, that was pretty groundbreaking. She was playing this futuristic character. If you look back then, we weren't included in the future, right? In Star Wars and all that kind of stuff. There were just no black people in the future. The future that Hollywood was visualizing did not include us. And here she is in Mad Max, this dystopian, whatever it was, sci-fi kind of vibe. And here she is doing her thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, she ran the town. She ran the whole town.
Yeah.
So.
That's wild.
Yeah.
I saw Tina Turner one time, Willie, in San Francisco. I was young. I can't remember exactly when it was, but it was when she hadn't made her comeback, right? She had left Ike Turner and she was on her own, but she hadn't blown up. So she's playing small clubs. She was at some small club. I can't remember the name of it and I believe she was opening for James Brown. I think so, because I was obsessed with James Brown as a kid, and I went to see him like 1,000 times. But one of those times I got to see Tina Turner. I really didn't know who she was at the time. I wasn't really familiar with her. I was there for James Brown. But I do remember being quite impressed with her stage presence and her talent.
Yeah, like your guest said, in the divorce she wanted to keep her name. That was part of the deal in the divorce.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Well, Willie, hold that thought. Hold that thought. We gonna continue our tribute to Tina Turner. We're gonna continue to say his name, George Floyd, 3 years since his murder. And we're going to continue amplifying your voices when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
A safe place to go loud. A great place for progressive politics. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
I'm Reverend Gerald, the life coach. Is someone you love struggling with addiction and mental illness? Is improving your family's health important? Want to leave a legacy that your family can grow? Are you ready to enhance your perception of life experiences? Then wake up weekends at 7 a.m. with Urban Family Focus and get the wisdom, opportunity, resources, and motivation to live your best life. Join the conversation on Urban Family Focus Saturday and Sunday at 7 a.m.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580 reminding you that we keep us safe. The Center for the Pacific Asian Family was founded to help address domestic violence and sexual assault in the Asian and the Pacific Islander communities. The Center for the Pacific Asian Family's mission is to build healthy and safe communities by addressing the root causes and consequences of family violence and violence against women. They are committed to meeting the specific cultural and language needs of the Asian and Pacific Islander women and their families. CPAF's vision is of an Asian and Pacific Islander community that embraces healthy relationships and works in partnership with other communities to eradicate all forms of violence. To access services, volunteer, or for more info, visit nurturingchange.org. At KBLA Talk 1580, we believe everyone deserves to be safe. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Maytag month has got it going on. It's all you want with the savings all month long. Baby, can't you see? Maytag month is all you need. You know you can't go wrong when Maytag month is going on.
Upgrade to the performance you need on all Maytag major appliances during May is Maytag month, happening all month long.
Maytag month is going on.
Gotta stay fresh, my house shot with a rest bar,
Have you visited us online for the grand opening of KBLA.store? For the best in new merch, gift ideas, books, media, and more, log on to KBLA.store. Be sure to check out our KBLA team favorites at KBLA.store today. That's KBLA.store for all the official merch on your favorite talk radio station, KBLA Talk 1580.
We knew you'd stick around. This is LA's home for progressive talk radio. Be heard. Welcome back to KBLA Talk 1580.
Yeah, celebrating the life and the legacy of Tina Turner. I'm getting DMs and people texting me and such, their memories and thoughts about Tina Turner, and you're welcome to share. 800-920-1580. That's what we're here for. In one of the things that I think about when I think about her, because, you know, I like Tina Turner's music. I like her story. But I wasn't a person that was listening to her around the clock or really did a deep dive per se. I always say I have this Forrest Gumpian thing with hip hop and music and culture in general, or I just happened to be in the right place in the right time. And I got to see her. But I think watching her, as someone on Twitter said, rebrand herself or reinvent herself at a time, you know, you think about, not to kick a man when he's down, but when you think about the comments of someone like Don Lemon that says, you know, women, by the time they reach 40, are past their prime. And to be a black woman, you probably have even less leeway, even though they say black don't crack, but it doesn't matter because ageism is not based on whether or not you crack. It's based on just a structure, you know, sort of this, I'm going to say it, patriarchal, linear Western structure, whatever it is. And so for her to reinvent herself and not just like have a career, especially in music business, rock and roll is for the young, unless you're already, you know, a superstar like Mick Jagger or Rod Stewart, then you can play, you know, until you can't play no more. And Tina Turner was able to do that. She was touring in her 80s. Have you ever toured with a band? I actually did it a couple times. And it's tiring. It's hard work. And I wasn't prancing around the stage and shaking my head back and forth like Tina Turner. And I was still woe out. It's the hours. It's traveling from town to town to town. It's that lifestyle. She saw her vision of where she was going. She stayed in her light, in her spiritual light, and she did the impossible. For a woman of her age to reinvent herself as an international rock star, filling stadiums as a solo artist, unheard of. For me, that's inspiring because it reminds me that, you know, the rules, the odds, what people say is irrelevant. What's relevant is what God says, what Spirit says, what you're willing to step into, to do the work for. And I feel like you could see the light in her eyes. You could see the love in her heart. You could see, you know, the beauty in her smile. And she was a dedicated Buddhist. She did her chanting, and I heard Herbie Hancock talking about that on MSNBC yesterday. And for her, it was part of turning her life around. So I'm not saying we should all be Buddhists or we should all be Muslims or Christians. What I'm saying is the fact that she went inside. She connected with God. She found her light. She believed in herself. And her ability to transcend all of the cages that are put in place by society, these virtual cages. You know, I'm a woman, I'm black, I'm too old, I'm too short, I can't do rock and roll because rock and roll is now a white man's game. And remember, music was even much more segregated back then when she broke through. All of those things. She stayed in her light. She stayed in her faith. She stayed in her truth. And she defied all of those cages. And to me, that is the enduring legacy of Tina Turner, and one for which I will always be grateful. Talking with Dr. Melina Abdullah when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Ree Harris, and here's the latest from the Black Information.
Bassett, who portrayed Turner,